Hello, welcome to today's show. I'm Jacqueline Stockwell, CEO and founder at Leadership Through Data. I inspire and motivate information leaders across the world. And I'm super excited about this podcast today. So I'm with Kathryn Brooks, and we're going to be talking about a wide range of things from training to career transitions, information risk management, to looking after our data protection and our digital detox. So it's going to be a great session today. So Kathryn, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, hi, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here today. Yep, my name is Kathryn Brooks. I am the Group Data Protection Officer for Cambridge Education Group. So we're a private education company. We partner with universities globally to provide pathway qualifications for international students. So I cover the entire group, which is run from the UK, but we also have centres and sites based in the EU, as well as Hong Kong and representatives based globally. So yeah, I have my work cut out for me, that's for sure.
You do indeed, you indeed. And tell me about you behind the roles. What do you do when you're not at work?
Well, yeah, do you know, I'm quite busy to be honest. So I have a 7-year-old, very active little boy who is skateboarding and sports obsessed. So when I'm not at work, you'll normally find me darting from one after school club to another, as well as going to the gym myself. We do a lot of running. Last year we ran a half marathon for Action for Children, an event my son actually set up because he wanted to raise money for children who weren't as fortunate as himself at Christmas, which was really sweet. We raised something like £750 for the charity. Yeah, so that, and then just being outside, hiking, paddle boarding, kayaking, anything that means getting back to nature, switching off the phone, putting away social media and not looking at a screen for a few hours or a day.
Oh, yeah, sounds like my cup of tea as well. It's what my best pastimes are.
Yeah.
So you talk about training in your sort of physical for your marathons. I could imagine that would have been a big undertaking training. Do you deliver training at work? And what's your biggest kind of roadblocks for training to make them engaging?
Yeah, so yes, we do run training, as lots of companies probably do. We have our mandatory out the box training that all new employees have to sit and pass, and every 2 or 3 years you have to retake that training that covers the kind of very basic standard of expectation for businesses, including data protection, information security, anti-bribery, and many more. They're quite generic. They do the job, absolutely brilliant. But I couldn't help shake this feeling when I started, like, yeah, okay, like it's talking about the legislation and how that affects business employee, but we need to go deeper than that. Because how is that relevant, and how do we make it more relevant, more specific, more targeted to different teams and different departments? So we started to look at a training program that would cater to those different departments, not only based within the UK, but globally as well. And how that training that we run from the UK may not be as applicable to that who we run with the EU or with China, and we need to adapt that slightly. The same as with if I'm giving training to our sales staff, I'm not going to roll the same training out to our finance team. It's going to be very different. There's going to be different parts of the legislation that apply, different considerations, different systems, different ways of processing data, and different categories of personal data as well. So it is about having an agile approach that is relevant to the individuals that you're speaking with, I think. I think by ways of a roadblock, it's just about getting that engagement and making stakeholders and all persons really buy into the fact that it is important to get that training outside of what is the mandatory tick box compliancy piece.
Yeah. So how are you running the sort of induction trainings, what you described before, and then how are you running the sort of additional layers?
Yeah, so induction training is out the box, video, watch it, video scenario, multiple choice question, get 80%, you pass it, if not retake until you do. And that's run by a company. So I just review it every year or two just to make sure it's still up to standard. The more specific training that we're rolling out across the company, it's multi-layered. So we like to have a bit of an approach to make sure it's catering for all persons, thinking about different learning styles, learning abilities, and also just the way people like to, I guess, digest content as well. Having an interactive, gamified in-person training session can make some people feel incredibly awkward, and then if they don't want to engage with those games, or they're kind of shoehorned into a group that they don't particularly want to kind of have that interaction, actually that training is lost because their anxiety is going to be so high, they're not going to take any of that information in. What they may prefer to do is to see a pre-recorded video and take that away and just watch it with a couple of people in their team and do the games independently, or just look at how the scenarios are played out, or even read it in Word format. So I think it is important about having different layers to how you deliver the training, and then different ways of delivering the training. So we have like an escape room module, which I actually took from Tash Whitaker at Privacy Space a couple of years ago. I thought that's absolutely brilliant. I messaged her, I said, can I steal that? That's fantastic. So we have like an escape room, which is great for sales and marketing teams, because I do threaten them I'm going to lock the door and they're not going to get back to their targets unless they get out.
Does that work?
Well, there's like a sheer panic in their face and they go,
Yeah.
no, I can't actually do that. I think HR would have a problem with it. But
I was going to say, don't advocate that.
Yeah. So making it gamified, making it relevant, and then like talking about real life scenarios, not only in the workplace, but actually outside of work. Because what I say to everyone is data protection and the GDPR doesn't work 9 to 5 with you. It actually applies to all aspects of your life. And there may be some things that you take from this training that you think, actually, there's this company that I'm really annoyed with because I keep unsubscribing and they keep contacting me. And there's been some situations where staff members have come to me and they said, can you just help me deal with this situation? Because I feel like I'm being hounded by them and I need to get them away from me. And that's always nice because it makes it relevant outside of the business as well as inside.
Yeah, 100%. And I think what you've described very well is that you can have e-learning training to do sort of basic layers, and then you have sort of like more advanced training, which is has a different of live videos and face-to-face as well, and you can kind of layer them up. So I think that's great. But the biggest thing is stories and gamification and making it accessible for everybody else. And you can do that via a blended learning method. So I think that's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
So have you always been in this role or have you been in other roles?
No. So if anyone has followed my journey previously or listened to the podcast I've done with Tim Turner, I have had quite a mix of careers over the years. And like many DPOs who were there in 2018 sort of fell in to the role a little bit. So I actually graduated and got a degree in graphic design and set up my own design agency straight out of uni and started exhibiting and doing work for like International Women of the World Festival and things like that. And that's kind of what my calling was at the time. I then, in parallel to that, because it didn't pay particularly well, got a job in sales and absolutely smashed it and loved it, and ended up being, in 5 years, sales and marketing director for one of Cambridge's largest telemarketing businesses. So that's quite good. Then the GDPR was announced and I thought, well, that's going to tank the business. We work with data brokers and buy in data, nurture it, package it up, and then sell it to our clients. So we went on a bit of a discovery tour, really, 18 months, pivoting the business, working out how to make it compliant. I did all the training under the sun and came out the other side absolutely loving it. My boss said, you know what, you seem to really thrive. Do you want to be our DPO? So happy days, I did. And then after that, I took a career break, had a family, tried out a few different things, worked data protection and like information governance and security as an outsourced service before landing my role as a privacy officer for Cambridge Education Group. So I've been here for coming up to 4 years now, started off as privacy officer and then moved into the role of DPO about 2 years ago.
Brilliant. So what would you offer listeners that want to transition from certain roles into this profession?
So I think it's all about looking at your transferable skills. There are some things that I would say, do help. Like if you've got a passion for privacy, you're organised, you have that kind of like structured, I guess, like mindset towards tasks and things. You're quite a methodical person and understanding how to apply, like problem solving, probably the best thing. Yes. We're not here to say yes or no, we're here to go, how do we make that compliant with the law? So it could be a really complex, challenging campaign that a marketing team might be wanting to work with you on. And then you have to kind of look through how you're going to make that fit and make that work for the business in the most compliant way. And that's really challenging, so it's having that problem solving mindset, being a bit of a data detective as well. So, asking the questions, not being afraid to pick up the phone, not being afraid to look to the whites of people's eyes and get them to show that they're ropers and whatnot. So you've got to be quite inquisitive and so that having those kind of traits, I think, really helps with having a career in data protection. And there are some fantastic qualifications out there, and training providers that are doing phenomenal things with helping individuals take those first steps into a career in data protection. There's loads of free services that you can download as well, and LinkedIn Learning's a brilliant place as well, just to get a basic knowledge of those things. I think looking at that, seeing what resources are available online, and then just packaging yourself up into transferable skills and how that would apply to a data protection role is the best approach.
Amazing. Thank you so much. What amazing advice. I can't add to any of that. So what are the most urgent problems you see companies facing right now when it comes to data protection and handling emerging trends like AI?
I think it's just the pace that it grows at. When OpenAI first landed in businesses in January a couple of years ago, the data protection community and businesses as well, it was a real mixed bag. There were businesses and individuals really embracing it. This is going to change the game. This is going to change the business. We're going to grow so much. And then there was others that were, it's going to take our jobs. We're going to lose complete sight of all of this, and AI should not be deployed at all. And it just grew. It just grew really fast, and the legislation hasn't been able to keep up in the UK at all. I know the EU is very quick to land the EU AI Act. Maybe it was a bit too quick, because I think now that it's been deployed so heavily, I think there will be some amendments to that we'll see over time. I think the UK need to have something, just anything. Code of conduct would be good. And so businesses are, and I think that's a real blocker for data protection people, is that if you're a UK business and you're saying we need to have something in place, there's nothing that the legislation says to call out AI specifically. So I'm very fortunate in that we are a global organisation, and I have a really good relationship with our exec who see the benefit of what we're doing. So very early on, I was able to change our privacy notice and add an AI assessment in our DPIAs, and to look at our transparency and create an AI governance group, and to be able to do all of those measures to make sure that we are keeping that conversation going, and that the use of and deployment of AI throughout the business doesn't get too unruly and out of control. But a lot of businesses don't have that kind of flexibility, and I appreciate that. I think it's just making sure you're doing whatever you can to kind of keep your finger on the pulse with it all. But it just changes so fast. And then we've got the data use and access bill coming in this year. So it's getting your head around that as well. Yeah. So it's difficult. There's a lot to do, and data protection teams can be small, and trying to keep up to date with the legislation, reporting to senior team members, as well as dealing with the day-to-day. I think that's the biggest challenge.
Yeah. What do you think the immediate actions they can take right now for organisations to stay ahead?
Do the ICO accountability framework. Just do that as a very minimum. I think it's a fantastic tool for any organisation to just run an internal audit and just benchmark where you are. You can get some really nice visuals from it. Present that to whoever you're reporting into, show them where the risk areas are, and talk about proactively what you want to do to mitigate that risk.
Fabulous. So where do you see businesses making mistakes with data and information that actually cause harms to their sustainability goals?
Retention and deletion.
Oh, yes. Data decarbonisation.
Yeah, I mean, there are some staggering figures on it, right? And I was reading a report an article on LinkedIn by, I want to get this person's name right, Scott Hamilton. So he published an article on LinkedIn last year, which was around sustainability around data and what impact that has globally with businesses, specifically in the UK, and where they're hosting their data. I think that is an area for all businesses. All businesses have to have a retention schedule, right? But how many businesses are actually adhering to it? And where is all that data being hosted? And who is going to share that data? And what are they doing with that data? And where is that data being hosted? Data is bouncing around all over the place. These data centers are absolutely huge. The impact that they're having in the environment is massive. And I think if we've got a business that really supports sustainability, the first place that they should be looking is how much data they are retaining and trimming down what they no longer need.
Yeah, 100%, because discussions around nuclear powers for, data centers as well. So it's scary, but that's one of the things I would have said. There's also Tom, I can't remember his name, but I'll put it on the footnotes of this. Was a very good person to follow. Doing a lot of work around data decarbonisation. So let's talk about EDI and data protection. So where do these two really important areas often bump heads?
Yeah, so I think so. EDI frameworks or governance groups within companies are fantastic, and I've been fortunate enough to work with some of ours and be there in meetings to have a listening ear around the work that's happening in this area. I think one of the biggest challenges that I've certainly found is around the protecting the integrity and the confidentiality of any personal data that may be shared to support that initiative, and what's happening with that data and whether we're being transparent and fair with it. Because there are so many kind of sub-working groups under that whole banner that are doing fantastic things with equality and equity within the workplace and ensuring that everyone is treated fairly and that everyone has equal rights, like returning mothers to the workplace, having compassionate leave when you need that time off, time to look after dependents, menopause groups, all of those and many more, where there's networks and people in the office who are sharing stories, but then like, what's happening with that information? How are you storing it? Who are you sharing it with? Are they happy with their that information to be shared? Actually, do they want to just be able to have like a space where they can share without it being recorded? So I think, without kind of like, I don't want to weigh in with my size 6 DPO boots and spoil people's fun or anything like that, but I think it is just being mindful of what is being disclosed, what is being shared, the purpose of it, and having the same protections around that we would do with our customers and our clients and our employees in the more kind of traditional senses as well.
Fantastic response. So we talked about right at the start around going kayaking and digital detox. So what do you think are some of the biggest issues people face from digital overwhelming, and how can they actually truly switch off?
Well, I tell you what, I think this is a podcast in its own right, and if you get me going on this,
I
won't
agree.
stop.
Short and sweet.
Yeah. So basically, I have a young son. I'm very aware of how much exposure he gets to screens, even though we have quite a low tech zone at home. He's got homework apps. He's got screens in schools. Somehow, knows his way around Pokemon Go, even though like I've never even shown it to him. So I mean, like and kids talk in school, and he wants to, he's talking about YouTube and things like that, and that exposure grows and grows and grows and grows, and it is just everywhere. And the impact of social media and streaming channels like YouTube can be very dark places, but it's also so rife, I guess, with young people now that it's difficult to completely block them from that, because you don't want to segregate them, right, from everybody else. So it is about striking the right balance. I think it is important to educate parents and school children about the issues and pitfalls and problem areas online, what to look out for, how to raise a concern either with your child or with a school perhaps or somebody else, and just taking a break. I work long hours, I'm on a screen at work. I don't want to switch off and then be on my phone on social media and then looking at a screen and watching TV. I want to be outside and reconnect with nature, with my family, with myself, just slow down. It's just content overload, and I think that is quite overwhelming and overstimulating for so many people, myself included in that.
Yeah, 100%. I tried it a while ago, just for one day to be away from my phone and the screen. So I'm quite good at getting away from the screen, but certainly on my phone, it was kind of that fear of missing out. So, but it's all around that discipline. It's an addiction at the end of the day. You're
Absolutely.
addicted to your phone, so you just got to manage the addiction.
Yeah,
and ensure
it's the
that you
dopamine
have
hits, right?
Yeah.
You're seeing how many likes you're getting on a post, the comments, and it is like a little dopamine hit that makes you feel good all the time, and you are wanting to get that again and again and again. And if you start looking at the science behind all of that, it's really interesting. Like the likes of Jonathan Haidt and the work he done with Anxious Generation is just fantastic. I recommend that anybody read that book. And then you've got TV series like Adolescence, which really were eye-opening around what high school kids are talking about and how they're using different platforms and different emojis to communicate quite sinister tones. Yeah, and I think, it is important to switch off from that. I'm just about to take a 2-week leave. I do it every year at the start of the summer holidays, and I just switch it all off. Like I deactivate, like literally delete the app of LinkedIn on my phone, so there's no temptation to look at it. I switch my emails off, and I say to people, if you need me, it's emergency, WhatsApp me, phone me.
Fabulous, I love it. My phone's going off. Turn it off for 2 weeks or we'll go away. So I think that's it's sensational advice. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been a great podcast. And I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Journals of the Information Entrepreneur with me, Jacqueline Stockwell. I hope you found this episode inspiring and helpful and have some takeaway tips that can be useful to you. If you liked this episode, please like, review and share it with your friends. Your support helps us reach more information leaders to stay inspired and listen to great content. Want to test out your strengths and weaknesses and measure it against our Empower framework? Please complete the scorecard. It's a great way to improve and evaluate your skills. You can find the scorecard at the end of the description of this podcast. Stay tuned for a new podcast every Thursday, and remember to be bold, be brave and be beautiful.